Tonight is the vice presidential debate. Mike Pence and Tim Kaine are going to face off. And this is getting real interesting. This is getting real interesting. There's most people don't even know who Mike Pence is. He's the wildly unpopular governor of Indiana who could not have gotten himself reelected in all probability. And, therefore grabbed the lifeline of being Donald Trump's whatever. The guy who walks behind the elephant with a little broom and the scoop. And over at Alternet, Adele Stan, who has been a guest on this program in the past, wrote a fascinating piece, 7 questions Mike Pence should be asked at the vice presidential debate. So just, notice tonight, if you watch the debate, it's going to be 9 to 10:30 Eastern time, which is what, 6 to 7:30 Pacific time, and you can calculate the in-betweens. 7 questions Pence should be asked. She notes Tim Kaine, the U.S. Senator from the Commonwealth of Virginia, is pretty much your basic liberal, not much by way of surprise in his background. But Pence embraces a range of positions far afield of the views of mainstream voters, views he doesn't flaunt on the campaign trail. Pence doesn't talk about this stuff. But everybody in Indiana knows this. Remember periods for Pence? Well, we'll get to that in just a second. Adele Stan writes, he's a favorite of the donors to the Koch network, as well as Tim Phillips, president of Americans for Prosperity, the ground organizing group founded by Charles and David Koch, the billionaire brothers at the helm of Koch Industries. And then she says in parentheses, according to Follow the Money, David Koch has spent some $300 grand on Pence's political campaigns. Pence has also enjoyed the largesse of Eric Prince, founder of the mercenary firm once known as Blackwater. So here are the questions that Adele Stan says should be asked. With regard to climate change, these are her proposed questions for a moderator to ask Mike Pence. In 2000, Mr. Pence, Governor Pence, you described the contribution to greenhouse gases to the changing climate as a myth. And as late as 2014, you told Chuck Todd on NBC's Meet the Press that you don't think the science of climate change and the effect on human activities of the environment had not been resolved. You said it has not been resolved. That's number 1, climate change. Number 2, creationism. Mr. Governor, you've been long a proponent of the creationist notion of intelligent design as the source of human existence, even suggesting in a congressional floor speech in 2000 when you served in the House of Representatives, the school children should be taught alternatives to the theory of evolution. Number 3, women in the military. In a 1999 op-ed you wrote of your disdain for the presence of women in the military in the guise of a review of the Disney movie Mulan, which you deemed to be liberal propaganda. Number 4, mandatory pregnancy. In March, Governor Pence, you signed what is perhaps the most restrictive anti-abortion bill in the nation, one that not only included substantial obstacles to a woman securing her constitutional right to terminate a pregnancy, but which also barred abortion in the case of a woman who had otherwise given birth to a severely disabled child, perhaps one who had suffered terribly. Meanwhile, Indiana has the 6th highest infant mortality rate in the nation. Number 5, value of a life. In some of Indiana's poorest countries, as you know, Governor, HIV and hepatitis C have flourished thanks to the opioid epidemic. Addicts share needles with which they inject the drugs, spreading the diseases throughout the community. In one of those counties, because you had prevailed upon the legislature to defund Planned Parenthood clinics, the one clinic that provided testing for these viruses was closed. Yes, Mike Pence did that. And yes, when it became apparent that you had an HIV problem in your state because of needle sharing, you dragged your feet for months before approving a clean needle program, saying that you had to pray on it. Despite scientific evidence, the clean needle harm reduction program saves lives. And what aspect of this life-saving program did you have to pray? Number 6, privatizing Social Security. On Capitol Hill, in an event sponsored by the Koch-funded group Americans for Prosperity, you have long made the case for privatizing Social Security. Why not simply raise the income cap, requiring well-off people to pay into Social Security on more of their income? Number 7, whose religious freedom? Governor Pence, last year you made waves throughout the nation when you signed a so-called religious freedom bill that would have allowed private enterprises that serve the public to deny their goods and services to LGBTQ people if they claimed that to do so violated their religious conscience. Right. So there's that. Over at the Daily Beast, Michael Daly has a piece The headline is Mike Pence pushes guns as Indiana bleeds. You know, conservatives love to talk about, you know, anytime you talk about guns or anytime you talk about murder rate or crime, they always say Chicago, right? Do you know Indianapolis, Indiana, the town where Mike Pence lives, has a higher murder rate, per capita murder rate, than Chicago? Indianapolis, Indiana. The murder rate in Indianapolis reached 16.9 per 100,000 in 2015, the most in that city's history. Chicago's came in slightly slower at 16.7%. In both cities, around 80% of those homicides involve firearms. Chicago police note that some 20% of the guns recovered in crime scenes in Chicago were purchased in Indiana. Pence signed laws that legalized sawed-off shotguns. Pence signed laws that permitted people to keep guns in vehicles in school parking lots. Pence signed laws to retroactively bar a 1990 suit by the city of Gary against gun manufacturers. So some pretty bizarre stuff going on here with Governor Pence. And, you know, formerly a right-wing talk show host, and then a Tea Party member of Congress, and now the Tea Party vice presidential candidate with Donald Trump. And Trump. Oh, and Trump's taxes and Julian Assange. I haven't even gotten to all this stuff. We've got a lot more. Stick around.